Chapter 3 The Fire and the Goddess. By the next monthly Sivratri, Aswathama understood at least one thing. Shiva had not asked to be worshipped alone because Shiva did not exist alone. The old stories said that Shiva had once loved Sati, daughter of Daksha. Daksha insulted Shiva. Sati entered the sacrificial fire. Shiva's grief became rage. He carried the dead body of his wife across the cosmos. The world trembled under a husband's sorrow. Later, Sati returned as Parvati. Love was not ended by fire, it changed form. To a global reader, Aswathama would have explained it simply: the wild god was not wild because he lacked love. He was wild because love had burned him. That thought led him somewhere unusual. Cannabis sativa, the Latin name. Sativa, Sati and Shiva. Was it coincidence? Carl Linnaeus formally described cannabis sativa in 1753. By then, Europeans were already moving through India, measuring, naming, classifying, and preparing to rule. Placé would come in 1757. Buxar in 1764. A plant already sacred in local life was being renamed in a European system. Aswathama did not claim proof, he marked it as a clue. Sometimes language laughs behind the scholar's back. He prepared the yajna. Fire rose, ghee cracked. The night deepened. This time Shiva appeared with Parvati. The goddess looked at Aswathama and smiled. Only an outdated human would perform a yajna in the 21st century for a non-material gain, she said. Shiva laughed. I too wonder about his motive. Aswathama felt heat in his face. Immortality had not freed him from embarrassment. Do you want truth? Parvati asked. Or do you want your favorite answer to become truth? He could not reply. Shiva spoke gently. We will not give you a ready-made answer about Soma. Ready-made answers become weapons. Divine revelations have caused enough harm. The words struck him harder than a mace. Shiva continued. Across religions, people say God spoke to them. Then women are pushed down, slaves are ordered to obey, lower castes are told that their humiliation is cosmic, wars are blessed, doubt is punished, faith becomes a leash. Parvati's eyes darkened. A private experience may be meaningful to the person who has it, but why must the world obey it? If a revelation cannot be examined, it can easily become propaganda. Aswathama thought of men who said the Veda came from the mouth of God, men who said scripture was eternal, men who said birth decided purity. He thought of other traditions too: prophets, covenants, chosen peoples, final books, exclusive paths, heaven for obedience, hell for refusal. Perhaps the Buddha understood this better, Parvati said. He did not ask the world to believe because a god whispered to him. He asked people to look, test, examine, and awaken. Shiva nodded. If the Supreme God has a mission, why would he need secret agents? Why whisper to one tribe in one language? Why not announce the mission clearly to all humans in all tongues? Aswathama heard himself speak before he planned it. If God needed humans, and if God were truly supreme, he could make a thunderous announcement across regions and languages. It would be more efficient than secret revelation. Parvati smiled. Good, the rules of inquiry are being born. Then the two vanished. No answer, only method. Aswathama sat before dying embers. He had asked for Soma. Instead, Shiva and Parvati had attacked the machinery of revelation. Perhaps that was the first clue. After Shiva and Parvati vanished, Aswathama did not move for a long time. The embers before him slowly folded into ash. Morning vendors began arranging flowers. A boatman cursed at a rope. A child cried because his balloon had escaped. The world resumed with no respect for revelation. That too was a lesson. If a god appears and the milkman still wants payment, then perhaps the spiritual is not opposed to the ordinary. Perhaps the test of divine speech is whether it survives tea, dust, bargaining, and hunger. The goddess had disturbed him more than Shiva. Shiva's distrust of revelation sounded like the wisdom of the cremation ground. Parvati's critique sounded like the anger of every woman made to obey a revelation delivered to a man. She had spoken not as ornament but as judge. Aswathama began revisiting stories he had accepted too easily. How often did a male voice say that God had arranged the world in a way that benefited male authority? How often did priestly speech make obedience holy? How often did women carry ritual purity on their bodies while men carried power in their hands? He wrote, if revelation repeatedly places women below men, workers below priests, and doubt below obedience, then perhaps the revelation has been edited by those above. This did not make him a modern reformer. He was still old. He still bowed before fire. He still trembled when mantras were sung properly. But he now understood that reverence without examination becomes a road to cruelty. The yajna itself changed meaning. Earlier, he had treated fire as a messenger to gods. Now he saw fire as a witness against secrecy. Fire hides nothing it consumes. Wood, ghee, herb, cloth all become flame openly. If a divine message is real, why should it fear public light? He thought of the contrast between fire and whisper. The whisper creates insiders. Fire gathers witnesses. Whisper is useful to conspirators. Fire is useful to communities. Perhaps that was why public rituals can become democratic when freed from priestly monopoly. Everyone sees the offering. Everyone sees the smoke. But even fire can be captured. A ritual can exclude. A mantra can become password. Sacred language can become a wall. This was why Parvati's presence was essential. Without the goddess, Shiva could be turned into another male authority. With her, the ritual had to answer life. Aswathama decided that his search for Soma would include the question of gender. If Soma was truly a drink of divine expansion, why had the traditions around sacred knowledge so often narrowed the lives of women? If the plant opened consciousness, why did social structures close doors? The goddess had not answered Soma because the wrong seeker would turn even a true answer into possession. Perhaps she was making him safer before making him informed. He smiled at the thought an immortal warrior once feared by armies was being educated like a stubborn child by a goddess who refused to flatter him.